Hello and welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Scott Moon and Chuck Manley. My audio should sound better today because I figured out what was wrong last week.
I knew something was wrong last time.
Gremlins.
It's gremlins that I accidentally poured water on and they made my webcam mic activate and not this mic activate.
It's been a long time since I saw that. Is that what happens in that movie?
Yes.
It is what happens.
You can't get them wet. You can't feed them after midnight.
You can't get them wet or else they'll mess with your podcast mic.
That's right.
Welcome everybody in the live chat. Hello. The Rick Partlow golf clap of appreciation goes to Rick. We're renaming it officially.
Just kind of making an assumption. Foregone conclusion.
The Partlow appreciation. You
got to get up pretty early in the morning to get the worms before Rick does.
Either that or just send me a message beforehand to go, hey, when are you going to post the show link? And then I'll do it real quick. And like, hey, go beat Rick. Go, hurry up.
It's who you know.
It is. It is who you know. It is.
I imagine Rick camped out in his tent, like waiting, like overnight, like a concert or something.
Like he's standing in front of his computer with his YouTube notifications open, just like this every day.
I'm going to win.
Looking at the screen and just click.
Winner. Domination.
Brendan Schaus and Charlie Dunn, Corey Gillum. Hello. Lou, good morning. Unity151 is in the chat. Hello. Good morning. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Monday. I'm hyped up on caffeine. I know that Chuck is as well. I'm sure Scott is right.
I'm on my third one of these.
That's caffeine?
That's awesome. Rick says, why would I stand? True. He's probably just sitting. True.
We're just going to assume, for the sake of our mental clarity, that he is wearing clothes during this entire thing.
One would hope. We don't want our heads going there.
It has not been 3 minutes, and the quality of the show has dropped drastically.
It's kind of like an avalanche. You kind of have to do an explosion to kind of like preempt the avalanche.
True.
So I do that. We do this. It's the right thing to do.
So it's a public service. You're saying is what you're providing a public service to the Keystroke audience.
Yes.
Jeez. Okay. Today's show is brought to you by Vicarious by Rhett Bruno. It's a brand new book he's just published, I think, within the last week or so. I'm going to put the link in the live chat. The audio book, if you get the ebook, the audio book is only like $7.49 as an edition. So you could buy the ebook is 99 cents and then the audio book is $7.49 if you buy them together, which is a wicked deal. You cannot get a better deal than that. Just for the audio, even if you don't even want to read the book, get the ebook and then get the audio because it's a steal. And it's doing its number one new release in dystopian sci-fi right now. Will Wheaton narrated the book.
And Catherine McNamara.
Catherine McNamara. Try saying that 3 times really fast. It's a really good book. I started listening to it over the weekend. Check it out right now. Give Rhett a boost. He's a good friend of the show.
After the show.
Yeah, not right now. Yeah, do it later. Hey, Brandon Ellis. Hello. Welcome to the show. Facebook user. The IE audiobook is designed to be listened to by bats. Who is that? Whoever it is, I'm going to go check it out right now. I can't see who you are, but that's...
because of the Facebook login shenanigans?
God, I really hate that StreamYard does that.
I know. It's just StreamYard and Facebook. Well, at least on the positive note, it just means that they haven't become one entity yet. So that's nice.
That's true. That's true. So today we're talking about being creative. And I've had the last week I took a break from the Tranquility Project to work on another project, Savage Stars, which sadly is not called Savage Stars anymore.
Why not, Josh?
Because somebody already took the name.
What?
I looked it up just on happenstance last week. I looked it up, and there is already a Savage Stars series on Amazon. It's a sci-fi series, and it's doing really well.
I saw an Edge of Valor book that wasn't your book.
Yeah, it's
a different genre.
There's actually 2 Edge of Valor books that are not my book. There's a World War II Edge of Valor book, and then some kind of post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, this Kayla Stone is actually pretty good. I started reading it. I'm not betraying.
So as we go on with the show without Scott. Just kidding.
I legit thought his connection dropped. I didn't. That's how asleep I am right
I'm
now.
crying inside. I'm very deeply emotionally bruised.
Lou says, "Isn't that always the way? Have a great title, check Amazon. It's already taken 100%. Normally, I wouldn't care. Like as a title, like if somebody's already used your title and it fits your book,
unless it's a runaway bestseller.
Now, I'm not going to call it a Game of Thrones.
Right? Exactly. You're probably fine.
I know this isn't the show topic, but I have to indulge for a minute. So, the series I'm getting ready to launch in May is called Blue Sun Armada. And I just picked that title because it sounded cool to me, and I've been having it for a couple of years. And then I had several people point out to me that it's some sort of cult reference in Firefly, that there's a Blue Sun Corporation or something.
There is a Blue Sun Corporation.
And I never made the connection, and now I feel sad.
Yeah,
unless you're writing a Firefly-esque novel, I wouldn't worry about it.
No,
I would actually. Yeah, I'm a huge Firefly fan, and I did not ever make that connection between Firefly.
I'm putting it in the book that you gave me permission.
Oh yeah, just tell him. Just tell him Josh said it was okay.
KSM authorized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rick is giving me Barbarian Stars, Hostile Stars of Valor. I could use that. I could do that. I'm down with that. Continue the trend, as it were. Yes, Scott, that is better.
Stellar Stars.
Stellar Stars. Starry Stars. So let's do updates. I'm going to go first this time because I can.
I think you should go first.
I've had a blast.
Hey, Josh, what you been doing?
I'm glad you asked, Chuck, because I'm going to tell you. I've had a blast using Plottr. We've talked about it a lot. I'm not going to go into it a lot this week, but I spent a few days last week plotting my new series, Savage Stars, which is not Savage Stars, and we'll figure it out something. But I used the program, and Scott mentioned, I think last episode or the episode before, that it's hard to kind of go back and forth, like writing and then plot or whatever. So I just to use it, I sat down and just used it to plot all the way through. I had my traditional pen and paper just to make notes and kind of write ideas down. But I plotted the book out beginning to end, 42 chapters ish. There's some other things. I know specifically that there are parts in the book that I need to expand when I get there. I just haven't figured out how to do that yet, so I left some of them blank. But for all intents and purposes, the book is completely outlined and done. And then I've been my plan. I've mentioned it before. My plan with this book is to try and dictate the entire first draft. And then go back in and write. The first two chapters were 100% dictated all the way through. Chapter 3, which I'm working on right now, is about 50% dictated. And then yesterday I was kind of just typing words in just because I wanted to. This morning, after I dropped my kid off at daycare, I transcribed about 600 words on the drive home. It's going really well. I'm having a lot of fun working with it. And it was a lot of fun working with Plottr. So with Plottr, you can export in Word, which we talked about last time, where it kind of breaks up chapter headings and stuff in the Word document, but it also exports to Scrivener. And if anybody's listened to the show at all, Scrivener is my baby, and I love it. And so I tried and exported it to Scrivener. And the cool thing about exporting to Scrivener is it does the chapter folders and the scene sections already set up. But then if you have notes and characters and places put in your Plottr project, it creates those folders in Scrivener and separates everything
as
out.
Notes in the notes file. Yeah.
In the notes file. It was super intuitive, and it almost exactly is set up how I actually use Scrivener.
It's very clean. It goes into Scrivener very clean. I was super surprised.
Yeah, I haven't done anything with the exporting, but I actually used it to start plotting out just this idea I have for a book down the road, and I really like the way you could like move things around and have different plot lines and decide where they go. And
right.
I mean, I've been very impressed with it so far.
And the thing is, it's super easy. Like you don't have to watch a whole bunch of tutorials. Yeah,
exactly.
So I know that we've pitched about it or pitched it several times as we've been talking over the last couple of weeks, but I'm really enjoying it. And it's relatively cheap as a tool in the process to write.
Yeah.
It's relatively cheap, so I've enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed creating a new story. I now have 2 fully outlined books that I need to actually just write.
Yeah.
So I'm pushing forward heavy in the writing in the next couple of weeks.
That could actually be kind of a, it makes the plotting and the outlining easy enough that I think you could fall into the trap of, I feel like I'm making progress because I'm plotting a new book.
Right.
And then you end up with a bunch of this bank of plots you haven't actually written yet,
Yeah.
you know? So
I thought,
go ahead.
But you'd still have them for future.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that's one of my ideas is, of course, I have great ideas and they, but now that Kindle has this new Vela thing, I think it's called Vela or whatever it's called, where it's like a serial, it's set up to do serial fiction. Wondering if I could use Plottr to set up the serialized fiction, and then every chapter would basically be the serialized part, and I could do that, and then every now and then just kind of work on it. In the Athon Discord, one of the authors that has had really big success on a platform called Royal Road, which is basically it looks like it's like serialized fan fiction, but it's big, and their authors that they've brought over from Royal Road have like 15,000 followers on Royal Road, and when they sold on Amazon, they just had massive success. And so one of the authors was talking about when he does serialized stuff, he actually waits until he gets to 80,000 words and then starts doing kind of like you do 3 novels and then do the rapid release, but he's doing serialized fiction every week with portions of his 80,000 words of story. And that might be interesting too, to kind of look into and try on this new Kindle platform if it takes off.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't really understand what the deal with it was.
I think it's just serialized. I don't know if it's like KU. I need to do some more research.
Yeah, I'm like, do you have to assign covers to it? I mean, I just
I
didn't dig into it that far, but
yeah, and I think it's just like in the beginning stages. So who knows? It could be worth it. It could not be worth it. It's just an extra thing that you can kind of look into and do. Brandon Ellis is in the chat. What's up, Brandon? Nathan, good morning. And yes, it is a beard of valor. Absolutely, it always is. And whether or not I'm growing out my beard really depends on whether or not the wife has got fed up about looking at it or not. And then I have to trim. So good morning. That I think is
just
all of.
You keep one side to her and just trim that side, and the other side you can do what you want.
Like, look at this is my good side. And then just don't look at the other side.
That would give you, freedom and whatnot. And
so I'm going to write that. I'm going to see what she feels about that, Scott.
I think she'll probably say Scott had another good idea.
I'm sure 100%.
I'm sure that's exactly what she'll say.
Definitely. I don't have a doubt at all. That's what she's going to have to say. Before you guys go on with your updates, I just want to plug too. Let me copy this. Brandon Ellis has started his own kind of video podcast on YouTube, and he just released his first episode. Oh wait, no, this was way back in the day. So
he has several. Yeah.
Well, I guess this is.
Or is this new? Because he was doing his Bali adventures for a while.
Well, he did do that, and when he made a post about it on Facebook today, I thought that he was starting something new, but apparently this was back a couple of years ago. And he says, "Don't watch it," in his post, but definitely go watch it because support Brandon, and subscribe to his channel because Brandon's good people. So that's my final sales pitch for today. Go subscribe to Brandon's YouTube channel.
Since that's your final, did we ever get an affiliate link for the Plottr? Were we going to do that? Do we believe in the product that much?
Well, I've sent an email. I haven't heard back from them yet.
Okay.
So maybe I'll shoot them an email and see where they're at.
No worries. I was just curious. If we had it, we could throw it out there. But
yeah,
obviously secondary. What about you, Chuck? What are you doing besides having an Athon hat that I don't have?
Well, like I was telling you pre-show, I'm still working on Jack Dark Book 2, and I think I'm letting it get in my head because I'm basically in the last, quarter of the book, I guess. But I keep thinking about the next book and the way this one's going to lead into that one, and I keep second guessing myself. And I've actually had to go back and restart where I'm at like 3 times now, and it's just I think I've reached a point where I'm overthinking it, and I just need to shut up and write the damn thing and get it done. But just trying to get through the mental hurdles that you need to get over yourself and shut up that inner critic enough to get the work done. I don't know why this one is hitting me this way, but
sometimes that happens though. Even to me, when you get to the end of the book and it's like, this is where I wanted to be for so long, but it's also, once I finish this, I've got to send it in or people are going to read it. Right. And it's kind of like pushback, like, I don't know if it's good enough. And then you slow down. I
want to make sure that it, I always like to make sure there's a good flow between books on my trilogies, right. And the next book is going to turn a corner a little bit into the post-apocalyptic. And I just want to make sure that it's an easy transition, that it makes sense, and that the reader's not suddenly like, well, why the hell is that happening?
Right. So, it's not going to be like The Expanse when you're reading along. You're like, what, vomit zombies?
Vomit zombies. I literally just had a conversation with somebody about that yesterday.
But that, and my son finally got to put on the show they've been working on so hard all this time, and my in-laws came in this past weekend and spent the weekend with us, and we went to see it, and it was super impressive. I had no idea it was such a big deal. There were 87 cast members, counting all the dancers.
And this is a high school level production?
And this is a high school, he's a sophomore. It's a high school level production. I was going to post some video that I took, but it's not very good. But I mean, it's just, it was super impressive. These kids did just a bang up job on it. But so I've had that going on, and my dog apparently wants some attention. And
dog is telling you what you forgot to say. Don't forget to tell him about rough.
Shut
up! Clip it.
And that's about it, really. Just been doing that. My daughter's waiting on softball tryouts to kick up, and I've been playing with Plottr and trying to get my writing life organized and get used to having more time to do stuff with, and not sleeping.
Seems to be a trend around here.
What about you, Scott?
Okay, so I'm trying to think, put things in order. I got my second vaccine, which was...
I got my first vaccine.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be not a big deal, but because the first one didn't bother me, and the second, I got the Pfizer, but the second one I got was like, I was fine. Then the next day I was like, I'm not really very fine. So I kind of had some suck yesterday. But on the positive note, I finished Orphan Wars 2. I was really nervous about getting started on the third one, but I sat down in the morning, and Josh knows I've been having a huge problem with this video game called Raid Shadow Legends, and I just cannot stop playing it. I have it on 2 devices now, 24 hours a day, and it's dumb. If you ever are thinking about playing it, don't do that if you want to be a writer, because it'll eat your life.
I think video games in general are bad.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 types. I break them into 2 types now. There's a type you have to sit down and intend to fully. Like if you're playing, what's the one you were playing, Josh, last week with the world exploring one ever, or
World of Warcraft?
Oh, Valheim.
Or Minecraft. So I don't know what that is, but it seems like that, or Minecraft, or like if you're playing Zelda, I always say it wrong, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
you have to sit there and play the game. But like in Raid Shadow Legends, you can put lots of things on auto battle. And so you're like, well, I'll just start this auto battle. It'll fight until it's done, and then I'll come back to it and check, and then I'll level everybody up, and then I'll adjust all my stuff. And
that's.
But the thing is you can literally play it while you're sleeping. You can play it all the time. My phone is giving me
the point.
Well, because it's so cool. The champions are so awesome. They're so much fun.
I like games that have some story to them. I like RPGs and MMOs that have missions that have stories attached to them and that kind of thing.
And I love story, but and I'm my whole life all I do is listen to audiobooks. I just and read and write stories and stuff. So maybe it's a break from that. But the biggest thing is, and this is all video games have this, and it's the part that is the crack of video games. It's the leveling up component.
Yeah.
Because in life it's hard to make progress, but in a video games you can feel like a master of the universe.
Yeah, you
So
get that false sense of accomplishment that comes with all
right,
that.
and so you're and plus it has a very strong element of gambling in it because you have to pull shards to get champions, but you get random ones, and then they have like double time events where you get better chances, and then
Oh,
you
yeah.
can.
Nathan
And there's
says, "Yeet it out of the airlock." Yeet.
yeah, yeah. There's lots of pay to play, but anyway.
Yeah.
So the point of the story is I've been trying for like a couple of weeks to not touch it until after like noon, and so I got up one morning, didn't turn on any games, and I blew through the outline to Orphan Wars 3 in one shot and loved it. And I was so much clearer. Even though I spent the same amount of time working, I was more focused, and it was like a breath of fresh air. It was brilliant. And that goes the same with social media. If you're, because a lot of times you kind of have messages running and you just kind of glance at them. Well, just the glance is too much. You got to shut them all the way off. But anyway, so that went good. I got that outlined. But then the big thing is I'm really excited about is that I started working on a new Reaper idea that I talked to Jeff Chaney about.
Yes.
And I've kicked around several I thought were good for some more Reaper, because a lot of people over in his group and the Renegade Readers have been asking for more Reaper. But I came up with a concept to get Kane started again, but kind of a reset, and it makes sense. And I'm super excited about it. So that gives me lots of energy. Very excited about that. And then I'm working on edits for Blue Sun Armada, which is going to be launched May 27th. And I really love that story. In private, you guys have heard me talk about how much fun I have writing that one. It's almost obscene. I just have so much fun. I'm like a kid. It's like playing a video game.
Well,
writing that story.
Want, man. You want it to be fun for sure.
So very excited. And then other than that, I did a shit ton of work on my yard. It still looks like crap. Works crazy and dumb, but I don't have to talk about that. And other than that, I'm ready to get into this podcast, and so is your dog.
Apparently.
Talk about our topic. What's our topic? What makes you the most creative?
So I was trying to figure out how to best quantify, because like you could say, where are you most creative? How are you most creative? When are you most creative? And just kind of having a in-depth discussion on creativity as a whole, because we talk a lot about the programs we used to write. We interview authors on their writing process, but the creative stuff, like coming up with cool and new ideas, is some of the most fun stuff to do with writing. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about it and have the conversation with peeps in the live chat and I don't know. I have various times in the day where I'm creative. Most of the time it's when when I'm not sitting in front of the computer working. When I'm out doing other things, I'm like, oh, that's such a great idea.
That's a real thing, though. I have that too. Like when you're like at work or with the family or any place where you don't have something to write your notes down with, the ideas just flow like rain.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. Like sometimes I'll have them, when I go to bed. Sometimes I have them in the shower. I've been trying to train myself though, to be more creative throughout the afternoon time, because that's when I have spent all of my writing energy, like actually doing the word work. And one of the things, Chris Fox was talking about this, and we talked a little bit last episode where he's like preconceiving the idea the night before, and and then knowing what you're going to write about. And this last week I've been plotting out my new book, and that takes a lot of creativity, not a lot of actual writing process, coming up with different ideas to drive story. And while I was sitting there, I was trying to write in Plottr on the computer, like, this is what I want to happen. And then in my head, just kind of sitting there thinking, how do I make that cool? And what I realized on day 2 of this whole deal was, instead of just sitting there typing, the easiest thing for me to do was just grab my pad and pen and just start scratching out ideas. And I spent probably a good hour, 2 hours just writing down kind of like what if, and then kind of going through different things and writing multiple ideas down. and came up with one of the coolest ideas I had for the whole book on accident. And then went back and kind of, what's the word? Retrofitted,
Refined it.
Yeah, I had to seed it in earlier in the book because where I was at the planning
You had to jam
stages.
a square hole into a round peg that you made earlier.
Yes, so I had to go back and like adjust different things in the outline. But that's what got me thinking about this topic, because I was trying to come up with ideas while I was typing in the outline. But then when I started just stepping back from the computer, I just leaned back, had the pad of paper at Rick Partlow got a retcon. I was retconning my outline.
What does that mean?
It's like retcon.
Just
So like
go back and do over.
Well,
Kind
yes,
of.
but it was like when J.K. Rowling
Redesign.
came out and said that Dumbledore was gay after the fact. Like she
But
like
is that like
didn't-
an actual word, or is that like just a?
It came out of I think it came out of the gaming environment because it's something you do with like characters and things like that. I think it became a video game thing where you go back and you've got a character that has X number of levels and you've assigned this skill tree or whatever to it. But then you decide you want something different, so you go back and you retcon it from ground zero back to where it was the way you want it.
Isn't it kind of like when they gave Solo his name? Like that was retconning the Solo
so-
name.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
See, Oxford Languages Dictionary says retcon, revise an aspect of fictional work, retrospectively, typically introducing a new piece of information that imposes a different interpretation of previously described events.
Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe that's
that makes
not
sense.
exactly what I was doing, but I was seeding it in earlier into
Okay.
the outline. But I wouldn't have come up with that idea at all had I not just been kind of scratching down ideas. And so that's kind of what got me thinking about when you're creating your story or you're having all these different things that you want to have happen, where in your process or what do you do that it gives you the ability, that gives you these great ideas? That's mine. It's basically just writing pen and paper.
It's really interesting that you talk about this of having kind of a focused, dedicated, assigned time for creativity. I feel like I'm trying to always be on because I'm trying to use every possible scrap of time wherever I find it. But in a way, you kind of bleed out all of your creative energy every place.
Right.
Whereas if you can sit down for like a couple of really truly focused hours, do your best work, and then do something else, maybe that's a good idea.
Well, and that's my thing. Like as writers, we tend to think that the work is actually writing, but something that I've tried to come to grips with over the last couple of years of being a full-time author or just being an author in general is sometimes just sitting down and letting your mind kind of wander without actually writing is working too.
Crickets.
Yes.
Man, that was a great segue for you guys to just jump right in there.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that
I was distracted by Rick
Writing
Bartlett's
isn't always
Magento
writing.
comment in the chat.
The what? The Magneto?
Magneto, yeah.
yes, and
Yeah,
somebody
we
was shitting on the Solo movie too. Forget who it was. But anyway, writing isn't always writing. Writing, you know, if you're plotting, if you're doing anything that moves your perception of the story or the actual story forward, I think that counts as work, but it's not always conscious either. You know, it's like Asimov always had more than one project going because if he got stuck on something, he'd go work on the other thing while his subconscious kind of, you know, formulated what he wanted to do with the other things. So, you know, as far as when
When you're at your most creative.
most creative, I mean, I don't know. It just depends. It depends on the person. For me, it's like I need it to be quiet. Preferably, I need to be by myself, you know, isolated from any distractions, so I can really focus without anything. And the older I get, the more this is true. The distractions just always just knock me right out of the zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, and like I wrote my first novel. I finished my first novel when I was working at the hospital many a moon ago, and I was working night shift pretty much by myself. And I didn't, you know, I'd get calls every now and then, but for the most part, I had 12 hours to myself, and I just used the computer there at the hospital, and I pretty much wrote the final draft of my first novel at work. But again, isolation, quiet, very few distractions, that kind of thing. So for me, that's what I need. I just need that kind of space, and I can just let my head go where it needs to go to come up with stuff.
Nathan Peddle has a good point in the live chat. He says, I have tons of friends who spend all day thinking about what to write and never actually get anything done.
Right.
Therefore, thinking of writing
No, I said anything that moves it forward. So if you spend all your time thinking about it, but then never put those thoughts into action,
right,
then no, that doesn't count. But if you're taking the action,
yeah,
and you're using the thought process to move that action forward the next time you sit down to write, it does count.
Yeah.
What I think is even worse than sitting around thinking about it and writing is talking about it and not writing.
Exactly.
Because there's a certain urge, and that's covered. I know that Stephen King covers it in his book on writing, but there's that thing. If you tell the story to your friend, you've satisfied a part of your psychological need to share the story. Right. And you have less drive to finish it. And so
I never tell people, I'll give them a broad stroke of, it's about a wizard in Atlanta. Boom. But I never go into great detail with the stories for exactly that reason. Because once I feel like I've told it, the motivation tends
that drive
to wane,
is wounded.
And that's another reason I keep my plotting and my outlines to a minimum too. Because if I outline it too deeply, I feel like I've already written it, and it becomes a lot harder to motivate myself then.
Definitely, for sure. Like I feel some of that. Like I feel super inspired when I'm super inspired. Super expired.
He's like a milk carton of writers.
When I'm plotting, and then I know the story now, so I felt like all right, we're done.
Right.
But also it's to Nathan's point, sometimes you've got to figure stuff out, and I've kicked myself in the pants a lot over the last year or so to get back in gear. And so when I have those times of trying to figure a plot point out, instead of struggling along and just banging my head on the keys, I just need to trust my own process and know if I pick that pen and paper up, I'm not wasting time. Right. I'm using it and working myself out of a problem.
I think that using different physical mediums are all tools in your toolbox. Like, for example, we've talked about it before, writing on paper, you get a different creative hookup somehow from doing that than you do from typing. But also, like, that's why I started doing voice or dictation. Ellen gets mad at me when I say voice dictation because she's like, you're being kind of redundant there. And then she tries to kill me, but that's a different story. But I started doing that to kind of jog, the way I think a little bit differently. And I think that can be a good tool. So I think those things count.
Yeah. The way I was doing things with Plottr, going back to that again, when I was messing around with it, I had my pad of paper and I would start brainstorming ideas. And then the one I really liked, and out of that little brainstorm that I really liked, I would commit to Plottr. Sort of like picking the crystal out of the crap to actually commit to what I wanted, to be final. And then the next scene or chapter or whatever, I would do the same thing. I'd say, okay, well, I did this in chapter 1. So for this next one, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. Oh, let's do this one. And then I put that in the computer, so it's kind of like, the broad tuning and the fine tuning.
It's almost like it's not real when you're writing it on paper. And then once you put it in the computer, it's like, I put it in the computer now. It's real. I can't change it.
Yeah, something like that.
One of the things I really did like about Plottr is that you make a separate character sheet there. And then when you go to make your chapter, you have a button and you can just click on characters and you can just add all the characters that are in that scene, and it automatically populates. You don't have to retype them every time.
Yeah.
And I think that's super handy. There's several things I really like about it. My only problem with Plottr is I'm always trying to do things on the go, kind of contrary to our conversation right now, writing in a focused time. And I was trying to move the app between the phone and the desktop. And I recommend not to do that. One, the phone app really isn't that good because you just have the advantage of Plottr is you can make this big visual representation.
Yeah.
And I was just using it to review, but on the phone, it's just not as robust because of the space limitations. But what I found is I would save it in Dropbox, open it on my phone in Dropbox using the phone version. But when I came back, anything I had modified on the phone would crash the program. So I think Plottr is great, but I would recommend just use it on your computer.
I can't stand typing anything on my phone.
I know. I do it out of active the purest
I know
desperation.
you kind of have to because you're
I'm a little crazy.
But I hate.
But it's so much better on the computer. So I may start trying to do that again. I talked to Josh about doing Plottr as an exercise to push my weak areas, plotting all the way to the end. But I'm a little bit like what you said, Chuck, is like, if I do a full outline, I told Josh about this a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, I can't believe this. Are you shitting me? Because what I told him is that I'll do an outline, but I have a hard time making myself read it. And so I'll have this detailed outline, and I'll kind of glance at it, but I can't really in detail read the outline and really get all that work I did. It's more like an exercise that I should probably throw away and then just write after. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that for me, and I think for a lot of folks, the outlines really just provide you that target to write towards, that next big thing in the story.
Yeah.
And that's how they work for me, because you get to do that discovery writing thing between the two. Because I can't think of one time I've ever done an outline for a book or even a short story, really, and it came out exactly the way
it never does.
I had originally outlined it. But I always knew I had to get to that point, that scene, and that kept me moving forward. Whereas if I hadn't had that, I may have just been like, what do I do now?
Well,
I don't know.
I think that's one of the things that I do with my outlines is create kind of a roadmap, and then one of the phrases I like to use is I didn't outline the outline, I pants the outline, and that's my
I like that.
That's how I generate story. But then it also helps me to not be wasteful in my writing time, because like I said, I was sitting there for a couple hours with my pen and paper. I figured out a cool character that I thought originally I needed an antagonist. And while it's a good antagonist, it could also be a really cool addition to the protagonist team. And so how do I figure that out? How do I work that into the story? How do I make this, and this happen? And in doing that, I solved like 3 problems in one, and then went back and seeded it in. So I didn't do a whole bunch of writing beforehand that I just had to throw out now. Anyway, I want to talk about the show sponsor really quick, and then we'll get back into being creative. And while I'm doing this, while you guys are listening in the live chat, if you guys have any of your personal thoughts on where you're creative, or how have you expanded your creativity when working on a project, I'd like to hear that too. So put those in the live chat.
I think their chat's degenerating to what's the best weapon for a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
You get them all back on task.
Slicing undead zombies, while a great pastime, is up. Okay, so let's see. Vicarious, a science fiction novel by Rhett C. Bruno. Full disclosure, it's published by Athon Books, who is my publisher as well. So,
as you can tell from the hats and stuff you have,
yes, I don't have. I'm not associated with this book at all, other than being published by Athon Books. Okay,
I will be.
That's the spirit. The real world is only where you breathe. In high Earth, entertainment is everything. Virtual worlds, hyper-realistic simulations, endless streamable content. There's something for everybody. You don't ever have to leave your home. Even working is optional. For Asher Reinhardt, nothing compares to Ignis Live, a reality show that pushes human beings to their very extremes. As a volunteer director, he closely monitors the lives of those living on an interstellar ark who believe they are the last humanity searching for a new Earth. The last of humanity searching for a new Earth. They aren't. They're just tonight's entertainment. Mission is the show's brightest young star. Born in hiding, her intelligence and near-perfect genetics have allowed her to rise up the Ignis ranks faster than any before her. But now that it's her turn to provide for the Ark, everything changes. With Mission's life placed in danger in order to boost ratings, Asher must choose between protecting the show he's dedicated his life to, or the woman who has been the focus of his attention since the day he was born. Vicarious, adjective, experience in the imagination through the feelings or actions of others. The 100 meets the Truman Show in this science fiction story about The Power of Human Connection from USA Today bestselling and Nebula Award-nominated author Rhett C. Bruno. It's perfect for fans of Hugh Howey, Kim Stanley Robinson, and Michael Crichton. This book is also available on audio, narrated by Will Wheaton and Catherine McNamara. Go check it out right now. I'm going to put the link again in the live chat. Rhett is a very good author. He's been on the show before. His books are very good. Titanborn was a phenomenal book. So was The Circuit. And
Roach.
This book, The Roach.
I don't listen to Roach. Is that good?
It's very good. It's very.
And you should also leave ratings
I've
now.
got
Since they're
I
even
did.
easier.
I actually just reviewed Steve, and I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, the Raptors sidekicks thing. I listened to the audiobook.
Oh, Chris Vallon.
Yeah, and I I'm not normally into YA at all, but actually that one was a lot of fun, man. It was just a good classic superhero story. It was,
Both of them are really
enjoyed it.
kicking it at a high gear with their new recent book. So Vicarious by Rhett C. Bruno, go pick it up. You can get it for 99 cents on Amazon today. And if you click the audio narration, if you listen to audiobooks, you can get it for $7.49, which is a wicked deal because it's half the price of your monthly subscription if you're an Amazon subscriber, Audible subscriber. And it's, 10 hours long, I think? 11 hours long? Let me see. See how long it is. That doesn't say. It doesn't say on Audible. Anyway, go get it right now. Links in the live chat. Okay, so creativity. There's everybody went full Star Wars. Stay on target. In the live chat. Let's see. Lou says, I ask myself questions that I need answers to, like a plot problem or backstory detail. Then I come up with 5 answers in order to get past the obvious cliche solutions. That's pretty much what
solid.
I did the other day.
Yeah.
They're coming up with different options and then lining them out. Like, that's stupid. I should never have thought of that. That's fantastic. Circle that one and let's do that.
That's exactly right. So, since we're talking about creativity, what sparks your ideas? I'm not asking you where you get your ideas, but I mean, what kinds of things, what kinds of environments actually make you think, oh, this would be a cool story?
So I think for me, for the Savage Stars thing that I'm working on, one of my favorite movies when I was growing up was Gladiator. I love that arc. And Scott mentioned something very interesting to me about flat arc characters.
Flat character arc.
Yeah, flat character
100%.
arc. That Maximus in Gladiator is a flat character arc because he begins and ends basically at the same place.
Basically the same. Yeah.
His moral code is the same all the way through. Same with Forrest Gump and a whole bunch of others.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I really enjoyed Gladiator, love the movie, and I thought, what if I kind of put a twist on that? And it's basically John Wick and elements of Iron Man in that he creates his own kind of battle suit, and then Gladiator. And so what I did is I take that base idea and then just think of what cool things I could put in the story and then go from there. And I think
other stories and movies and other parts of media are what typically inspire you and give you that spark?
I get a lot of inspiration from movies, but also some weird thing. I listen to audiobooks a lot when I'm mowing the lawn or when I'm doing dishes or just walking around, whatever. And right now I'm listening to the Gray Man series, and that series has pushed my excitement for writing action scenes to a whole another level because he's so great at writing a cohesive action scene. And that has given me ideas on how to set up the action in my books and write it. And knowing those processes gets me thinking about, okay, if I'm going to do this, then how do I get them there? And then what does that take them to? And I think just kind of thinking of the original idea and then breaking down the events to get there. I think that's where I feel like I'm the most creative and trying to figure out cool ways to get, because usually more often than not, my first 2 ideas suck. And then by the time I'm thinking about it for a couple of hours, I'm like, that's the one right there.
Yeah.
A lot of
gotta
times the first
refine
ideas
it.
seem good at first. That's why they're first.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you can sometimes do better. There's I have a book, Stein on writing.
Stein on writing. That's a
By
great
Sol
one.
Stein. He's a famous playwright, but he talks about not taking the top of the head thinking. That's what he says. So your first idea is top of the head. You should dig a little deeper, and you'll probably find something that's better.
What's interesting about that is in my Gods of Fire novel that I'm writing, one of the big plot points of the book, when they find this MacGuffin, right? Is that what it is? MacGuffin?
MacGuffin.
Yeah, MacGuffin.
MacGuffin.
They, I mean, it's important, but it's basically just a MacGuffin, and I've been kind of wrestling with that, and like you said, the first idea is usually wrong. Because it's so
not. I mean, you could be better. It's not necessarily wrong.
Well,
it might work.
It could be better. Well, I've been having issues with them getting this MacGuffin because it's such a random coincidence that they find this like supremely powerful object, and I'm wrestling in my head. Is it too much of a coincidence? Could I do this better? Could I set it up so they go hunt it? And then finally, the obvious solution was they don't get it at all in the first book, and it's something that they can learn about in the first book, but then have to go do something second, third book or whatever. And
Always
that's
try fail.
Yeah, try fail, right. And so like they don't get it. It affects the whole rest of the book, and that made the first book and the second book really good. Better. Let's see. There's a Jake Clifton Slater says, I'm not sure if it qualifies as outlining, but I write historical adventure. Historical events guide the locations and provide a timeline, but the story of the character is created as I write. Yeah. I love that. I want to get into writing, not realistic, not historical fiction, but stories that I can take real life events and weave them into the story.
Yeah,
I think that's really fun to do.
I think in that situation, I mean, the historical events and stuff, like you said, it provides you with settings and locations and backdrops and stuff. But any plotting or outlining you do would really be about the character's arc. You know, what they do within the context of those events and settings and stuff.
Definitely gives you a framework. I've always wondered I love historical fiction. It's maybe one of the favorite things, but it's always been very intimidating to me to how to write that and not screw it up.
Brendan Shue says walking and upbeat music helps me get ideas. The gym in the before time.
Nice.
The gym in the before time was the beginning of a lot of my stories. I love that. The before time. That's amazing.
That's
sweet.
That's pretty good.
I actually did that. What was it? Was it Friday? No, it must have been Thursday. I went out and walked in my neighborhood and dictated, which I've never done before. I went out purposely after dropping the kid off from school. I got back, had my recorder, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go walk. Now, it happened to be a little cold, so I was only out there for like 5 minutes and then came back. But I'm going to try that tomorrow. Well, tomorrow it's supposed to snow. Wednesday, I'm going to try it again and see.
Are you kidding me? Is it snowing tomorrow?
That's the rumor. That's the rumor that it is snowing.
Welcome to Kansas.
Welcome to Kansas. Stupid. But I thought walking was really good. Walking and transcribing helped me a lot.
A lot of people do.
I gotta get a microphone for my recorder. I'm sorry, Scott. I gotta get a microphone for my recorder.
Kevin J. Anderson, Chris Fox.
I'll send you the link for the one that I have.
Okay, we're not gonna let Scott talk.
That's good. It's probably for the best.
No, Kevin J. Anderson. What?
Well, so they've talked about writing or walking being a big part of their creative process. There's two comments I think we should hit. Nathan and Scott McGlasson. They both have a couple things we should probably highlight and put up there.
But you start reading it and I'll put it up.
That says, whenever I think of an idea, I write it down for a few weeks. That one's good.
That's a good idea.
And then if I forget, it's not worthy if it stays. So I've heard this thing before, where if you have your idea, like I can't remember who said it, but he has an idea at bedtime and he doesn't write it down, and then it's
Terry
6
Brooks.
in the morning. Terry Brooks.
Yep.
I've tried that, and even on the greatest ideas I had that I didn't write down, forgot in the morning. And then I kicked myself for days because I was like, that was the best idea I've had in years. And I didn't write it down and I forgot it.
Conversely, I've written them down and woke up and I'm like, that could have gone away.
I don't trust myself to remember things changing rooms, much less going to bed and waking up.
What was I in this room for? Oh, yeah, I was getting coffee. So then Scott asks a question, then Rick answers it, and we can all probably talk about this one.
So, honest question on the topic: how do you organize random cool ideas, and then how do you go back later and look at a bunch of them to find links? So I do that. So I have an iPhone, but you could do it on any phone. I have a folder in my notes app that is just story ideas.
Yeah.
And whenever I have a story idea where I can't immediately, where it's not tied to anything in particular, I just go to that folder, create a new document, and write it down. And then it just sits there. And I do that a lot, even in the stories that I'm writing. For instance, when I opened my app, this was the first. Let me see if you guys can see it. Probably not. So this is the first thing that came up right now when I opened the app, and it was I had already named the female character in my book, and I think I named her Ishara or something. But then a really cool name, and if I say this, and people are going to tell me it's been used somewhere else, but I thought of a really cool name, Montana Quinn, for her name.
Cool.
That sounded like a cool, almost like Wild West type name. And I was like, that's a really cool name. And I wrote that down. But I do
like Harley Quinn too.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'll do that with a lot of my stuff. I'll go into my notes folder and write down ideas. And then I'm not very good at going back and looking through them. But if I remember, I had a good idea about this the other day, then I'll go back through and look at it. And usually when I link stuff, when you're talking about linking multiple ideas, that happens when I'm doing like pen and paper planning, and I'll write multiple things down, and then something will happen in the creative process where I'm like, oh, this sounds good. And then sometimes I can tie them back to other ideas that I've already had and make that idea bigger. But it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes I just have one-off ideas that I write down. What about you guys?
I do the similar thing. Yeah. Of course, it's kind of all over the place. But what I most consistently, I'll whip open Dragon Anywhere because I have it on my phone. I'll just hit a new document and I'll voice it in there. And I do that because I've done the notes too. I do them both actually, whichever I can get open quicker, because I'm usually driving. But and then it'll be there, and then the dictation does the most accurate vomiting of what I'm doing, or I write it on my hand, which is probably most of them. I just write a couple notes on and then I hope I don't. And then if I haven't had time, then I'll keep like retracing on my hand until I eventually write it on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I got a folder in my Dropbox called Story Starters, and I do most of my work at my PC, and I'll just, if something pops in my head, I'll drop it in there, and if it relates to a project that I have multiple ideas about, I'll have subfolders for, superhero book X or whatever. And I just kind of keep them organized that way. And then if I'm out and about and something occurs to me, I'll make a voice recording and then transcribe it,
also good
folder when I get home.
The last thing I will do sometimes, I will just pull over to the side of the road and start writing a new book right there on my phone, but that's not recommended.
That's not recommended.
I need to mention this. I hope that my daughter's not mad at me for mentioning this, but she's got a new job at a hair salon because she's a hairstylist, and there's so much hairspray that in the next room that is making my teeth hurt. I mean, I don't know what's going on here.
Scott McGlasson says mine are buried in their own folders with meaningful descriptions, but looking at a bunch of them at once and trying to find links that will usually create their own news story ideas is a bit cumbersome. Sometimes you just have ideas that would be great for a specific story that don't work in yours. My thing is I've had stories, ideas, like I remember a story idea that I had back when I first started writing that I haven't yet found a use for, but eventually I'll probably create something that'll have a use for that idea. I had the Savage Stars idea like 2 years ago, and just was like, that was a really good story, a really good idea. What can I create out of that? And just sat down and worked it out.
Yeah, there's, kind of on a global idea like that tends to kind of take on a life. And so I have several of those that just kind of keep, like the Blue Sun Armada is one that has kind of grown and started and stops and fits. But like sometimes you have like you said, like a name change or some perfect smaller tweak. But I think that writing the ideas down is part of the exercise in and of itself, even if you never use them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of like finishing the exercise.
Well, and it's also good. I think, another thing I do with that story starters folder is if I delete something from a work in progress, decide that scene or that whatever doesn't work there, I'll just copy and paste it into that folder, because you never know when an idea is going to feed into an idea you haven't had yet.
Yep.
There's always that bubbling cauldron of creativity in the subconscious that you can't account for. So if you can ever be prepared to add to it, you want to save stuff like that.
I think writing the words, like Nathan said earlier, that's the most important thing. But coming up with ideas is also, I've run into a whole bunch of people that have problems with ideas. And I think that some of the problem that I see with how they're talking about those ideas is they have the idea, but then that's just it. It just stays in that box and it doesn't go anywhere else.
Right.
Sometimes the specific idea you have doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't connect to anything. It doesn't help you at all, but just generating the idea, writing it down, or moving away from that. Sometimes that is the inciting idea that helps you develop these other cool ideas.
Right. And a lot of times I think people that I've encountered in writing groups and stuff who are like that, who have like the idea and they want to just keep going with the idea but don't know how.
Right.
I'll tell them, I'm like, well, sit down and start writing the idea.
Right.
Because a lot of times action informs inspiration.
Yes.
It's not always inspiration that leads to action.
And sometimes you'll figure out that idea is the wrong idea.
Right.
Like with Edge of Valor, my initial idea was what happens if a team of Marines crash lands on an enemy planet and is stuck there. But that was just the original idea. And I actually went on that direction for a long time before I realized that idea really didn't work. But the other ideas that I had while I was doing that generated the situation where I had the complete story there.
Right.
So you bring up an interesting point, though, because what you just said, it's an idea, but it's also a premise.
Right.
Because it has it has the what if in there. Sometimes an idea might be, this is a cool new character name. That's an incomplete idea. It's not really actionable, but it might be useful someplace. You have little things, but like when you have because basically the premise is like a micro story in and of itself.
Right.
And all it needs is the answer.
Right.
And stuff. So there's different things of ideas. And I think looking at the live chat, we're in everybody here is a writer right now in one phase of their journey or another. And what I see is ideas are not that hard for most of us who are in this conversation right now. If you're listening to it and you're having different experiences, and it doesn't mean that they're easy to get, but I know lots of people we talk a lot about why I write so fast and I push myself so hard to write so much. And the main reason is because I have all these unvomited ideas that I want to get out in the world.
Right.
I need to vomit on everybody is what I'm trying to say. But that's the thing is ideas, but at the same time, they're still, even though I have literally hundreds of more ideas than I'll ever use, they're still worth writing down sometimes, because maybe that idea is looking for a place to land or something like that.
100%.
And and again, you never know when an idea you had a year ago is going to come back and be like, that's perfect. That's what I need to do right now. I know how to expand on that now.
Right.
And sometimes you're doing what Josh did. You're just planning that idea for 2 years from now, and it's going to grow in your subconscious.
Scott McGlasson had a good point. It says ideas not a problem, dime a dozen. Discipline to sit down and write, huge problem.
Huge problem.
That's what most people are like.
I've actually been struggling a little bit with my own discipline because I've gotten super frustrated and kind of gotten a bad mindset about it because I have so many distractions these days. But I've been listening to a book that I think we've discussed before called Atomic Habits. That is, discipline is really just a habit. When you boil it down, it's just a habit, and it's typically considered a good habit. I highly recommend the book if you can put it into practice, but it really breaks down for people how you you can sort of trigger yourself to do these things and make sitting down and writing a habit, and sort of setting up your life around these systems of habitual behavior that lead to the goals that you want to achieve.
That brings us back to our show topic of when are you the most creative, and
Right.
maybe putting your writing time into that slot, if you can control it, could have huge dividends.
Lou says every time you need to write, just look at your family and say, I need to vomit, and then run out of the room.
Oh, that's what I do when I'm drinking.
Like, man, he's been drinking a lot lately.
I combine those two activities because they're super fun. Writing and drinking, not vomiting.
Wait, you can drink without vomiting?
It occasionally, yes.
It is possible. It takes discipline, though.
It takes,
And maybe a wingman to say, you know what? Maybe it should just fucking stop.
I'm probably one of the. I don't know if this is true for everyone, but what's that? Is it Hemingway that said write drunk and edit sober?
Yes.
So I cannot write drunk. I've tried it several times.
I talk a lot of shit, but I can't do that either.
Yeah,
I think most people talk a lot of shit and can't do that.
I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but everybody went to bed. It was like 8:30. I was wide awake. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go down and I'm going to work on Savage Stars a little bit. I got some bourbon. I sat down. I got about halfway through the glass and 3 paragraphs in, and I was like, nah, this ain't working.
I gotta play Minecraft.
I can't do it. I couldn't do it. Oh man,
I can barely follow a TV show if I'm really getting into the cups. You know?
Oh yeah. I like that. Getting into the cups. I like that.
Getting into the cups.
Rick says he can write drunk. He just makes a lot of mistakes.
Like
trying to read it. Like, what am I talking about here?
He cuts his word count down from 6,000 words a day to 2,000 or 3,000 words a day.
Yeah.
Brendan says he can barely write sober.
Good point.
Lou says, I think writing sober and editing drunk would be much more
entertaining.
I agree. So, good conversation today, guys. I really I like being. Well, I think being creative is one of the funnest things about being a writer, but it's also one of the most terrifying things too, because everybody's like, that's the worst idea ever. Everybody in the live chat, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us.
Great participation today.
If you're listening on the audio feed and didn't know we do a live feed, I didn't mention this at the beginning of the show. I got off my we have a live show on Monday mornings. We're live right now. Well, not when you're listening on the audio feed. It's not live now, but it was live now. And so when does live become not live?
But so you're saying there is a chance to hear it live.
I was trying to pull a Spaceballs reference on there, and it got lost halfway through. And I apologize. Very apologize. We're doing a podcast drunk.
The only Spaceballs reference that really fits is when we say something like, we didn't see you, Lord Vader, playing with your dolls.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, we're going to call it for today, guys. Thanks to everybody for coming and hang out with us. Scott says you can Valheim drunk. Done it. We're gonna come back next week. We're gonna have Bill Peterson on the show next week with Kayleen Williams talking about anthologies and the kind of the rise in hard science anthologies. So that'll be a fun topic. Come back and hang out with Kayleen and the crew next Monday. And it'll be a good time. I think Walt's going to be on tomorrow morning, 7:30. I think it's 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. So it's 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central with coffee and concepts. Kayleen and Lauren will be on the writer's journey on Friday. They talked to James S. Aaron last week about basically masterminds and how he manages his group, and Scott and I are both a part of his mastermind group called The Propeller. We meet once a week, and they are great things to be a part of if you can find the right one. There was some good discussion at live show, so if you didn't catch that, go check that out on the writer's journey. Kayleen's story time, as always, is great times. If you have not caught that on the Facebooks, go check story time out. She does a fantastic job narrating. And sometimes I think that if she's missing her call, she needs to be an audiobook narrator. If you haven't heard Kayleen read a book, you need to go check out Kayleen's story time, because it is phenomenal the way she reads those
and
books.
The price is right too.
And the price is right.
Just giving it away.
100%. Oh, Bill Patterson. Sorry. Bill Patterson, not Peterson. I apologize. All right. Well, we're going to call it. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. Come back next time. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some dogs and, of course, everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Peace.